Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fan, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
What would have me was I would be posted right outside the Celtics locker room. So, and that was a dope post. You see everybody. You see, obviously the Celtics players, the opposing teams players. You see all like the media, all like all the big time, people that you see on TV, like reporters and stuff. They would come through. So it was dope, man. It was awesome. I miss doing that. Man, maybe next year I'll get back into that because that was definitely fun, man. I enjoyed it.
Nationally televised games was crazy.
Oh yeah, especially that hallway would be busy, buzzing.
Yeah,
buzzing.
Last Celtics game, I went to me and my boy. We saw Mark Cuban outside. He
that's dope.
Took a picture with us. Yeah.
That's what's up. He's a cool dude, man.
He is good people.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man.
I'm not surprised he took that picture. He's down to earth like that.
We ran up on him.
I did hear about that too. That he's a laid back dude.
We ran up on him. I'm like,
if he asked for all y'all names and shit, like he's mad for all this shit.
He did. I was like, dude, where's your security? I'm like, you're
right
out here by yourself.
Like,
bro,
hold on, but NBA team,
$1 million over here walking around.
You're a billionaire, right? And you don't have any security.
It was weird. It was weird. I was like, dude, you just out here? Like, I don't know. I'd be careful.
He looks like that kind of dude, though. That just be.
He is. Yes, sir. But I know Josue gotta go soon, so let's get this on the road.
Hey, that's true. Good chopping it up, but you're right. Gotta get to business now.
Yeah, my bad, guys. A little late, but let's do it.
No, all good. No worries, man.
No worries at all.
Yeah, I don't know why it feels like it's earlier, man.
No, right? It does. Even though it's 11, it does. Facts, for real.
I'm like, why are you so tired? Wake up. I'm like, damn, but I'm good. I got my coffee.
You used to doing stuff at night with the Celtics talk.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
I was watching a lot of the stuff after the game, and then I got the post game show and everything. It was pretty late by the time I was done, man. It's like almost 3 or 2 something. Yeah.
Were you
crazy, man? We do. I mean, I can talk about it when we start recording, but we used to do when I used to see you every game was we would record like 3 or 4 segments on the court, breaking stuff down or whatever. You know what I mean? Each segment was like 4 minutes tops, right? Now we hop on this shit and we go live. We do a post game show for like an hour, and since the bubble, people, man, the audience is tripled, man. It's been crazy. So that led to we do this other thing called Locker Room. We got an advertisement with Locker Room, and it lets people chime in and talk to us and stuff. You guys heard of it? It's kind of
it's like a Patreon.
No, it's like a Clubhouse.
I hear you guys talk about it. That's why you guys leave during the show.
Right. So pretty much it's pretty much like a big virtual room, right? And let's say like you're hosting, right? So you're on stage and you can pull people up. And everybody in the room is listening, but no one can jump in unless you pull them up on the stage, right? So
it is like Clubhouse.
Exactly. It's like Clubhouse, but it's all like I only see mostly sports stuff. Like you can hop into other rooms, you know what I mean? So there's different things you can go into, but it's all by your preferences, right? So when you set it up, like your favorite sports team, your favorite this and that, anyone that starts up a room that pertains to that, you'll get an alert. So it's pretty cool, man. Whenever we go on, if you're following with us before, you're gonna get an alert. And like we was rocking for like 2 hours last night, man. It was crazy. And I was in Boston trying to get a fucking Uber, bro. I was assed out, trying to get an Uber for mad long. But
Uber's been funny, man.
I can listen to it, crazy. And I thought because of the holiday it would be better, but it was
it's been real funny.
And then I can mute my mic so I can jump in when I want to, jump out, you know what I mean? But I'm there the whole time, so it's pretty cool.
It's called Locker Room?
Locker Room, yeah, it's just an app.
Like I hear it on the show at night, but I've never gone on it, so I'm gonna download that.
Yeah, man, it's picking up.
Yeah, me too, definitely. I'm gonna download that too and check that out. Thanks for letting us know about that.
Right,
man, that sounds pretty dope, man.
We had Perk check in with us a couple times. That was funny, man.
What Perk pulled up? He came through.
Yeah, man, it was dope. He was saying some shit too. We can get into
that. Oh yeah,
pretty
that's
much
Perk.
being like, yo,
he definitely talks his shit.
He wouldn't flat out say it, man. He kept like rolling around, and finally he was just like, hey, listen, man. That's what I hear around the league, man. I don't know if Brad's the one. I don't know if he's the one for these guys. I was like, oh.
Ooh, damn.
You don't say this on TV. You don't say this shit on TV, Perk. Yo, we can talk about that a little bit too, but yeah, man.
Yeah, he did recently call out Brad Stevens on TV and on one of his shows. And,
yeah. Now
say that he doesn't think Brad's the right coach for the
down
Celtics.
2-0 in the series, yeah, but he's been itching at that for a little bit, but I just feel like, you know, because technically you're working for the Celtics, you know what I mean? Like, notice guys like him and Scal, they're not going to say something like that, you know.
Especially Scal.
Especially Scal. So
it's not good for business.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Scal doesn't really call out the Celtics like that.
He said that shit on ESPN, huh?
I think so on First Take. Yeah, with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. Yeah, I think that's when he first, you know, said it about, you know, Brad, that he's not the right, you know, coach for the Celtics.
Abby, like, don't talk about him like that, yo.
You gotta get spicy. You gotta get spicy out there.
Abby don't want to hear that, yeah.
Facts. He won't say that on the pre or post game show with Abby. Right. No, I feel you.
Got the green, you know what I mean? He got the green goggles on. But, you know, Scal sometimes challenges people, though. Sometimes.
He does once in a while. He'll, you know, call out people and hold them accountable, but not usually, not regularly.
Yeah, Scal can't help himself. I used to
talk to him a lot.
He used to have something to say about man players, not like necessarily bad stuff, but be like, yo, look out for this dude, or he'd be like, his whole thing with Rob was his spacing on defense. And he's improved a lot, but this was like a couple of years ago. That was a big thing. He was always late. That's why he was always like slapping people and fouling. You get that dude one up fake, he was jumping through the roof. So he's gotten much better at that. But Scal used to point stuff out to me, like point that stuff out to me sometimes. Like he's cool like that, man. He'll talk to you.
Cal.
Well, that's what's up.
Scal's a good dude. You know,
the
white mamba says Kwame Brown.
He need to stop giving random people the business, though. I thought that was funny, man. You see when he play one-on-one with that kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Oh, yeah. I know, that was great. I love that, too. Yeah, I'm glad that he was giving, those kids buckets and busting his ass.
Like, I still got it.
Yeah, right. I could still hoop. Yeah.
Good. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Josue, you good?
Yeah, man, I'm good. My bad. I talk too much.
That's all good, bro. No worries.
That's how I warm up. Yeah, that's what I do at the post-game show, man. I've been talking like crazy before. That's how I warm up.
That's it.
Hey, whatever works.
We warm up like that too, for sure.
Right? Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, facts, for real.
All right. Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy John Altidor, Pro Fan Sports Podcast, where the fans of the pros go back at you with another one. My boy Vlad, Barry, and our special guest, Josue Pavón. What's going on, fellas?
What up?
Guys, how we doing? Appreciate the invite.
I appreciate you coming on, man. You know, it's a big day to be doing this right after the Celtics game, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Too bad the series ain't tied, but that was too much, man. This Nets team is too much. It's a lot.
Yeah,
a lot to take off for the Celtics team. But at least they showed heart. They showed effort. You know, that was certainly in question at the beginning of the series, but not anymore.
For sure, man.
Absolutely. And
we'll see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, excited, for the show, and to have our boy Josue on. Appreciate you for coming on and connecting with me. Yeah, of course, no problem. Yeah, no, it's been too long, man. Right, exactly. We have been talking for a while and, trying to set this up for a little bit. So I'm glad we're able to do this. So, looking forward to having a great show with you guys and, talking some Celtics and, basketball. And, we are on to episode 63 of Pro Fan Sports Podcast.
Yes, sir. Vlad?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for this episode. Let's do it.
Episode 63.
Yes,
so
let's get to it.
That would be a Brad Marchand How you say it? How you say it?
Oh man,
Marchand, Brad Marchand.
Oh,
People say it different.
I was thinking the same thing, but I couldn't come up with a name. That's a good one.
Brad Marchand. I got Don Connolly, Patriots.
Yes, Dan Connolly.
Dan Connolly.
Yes. Yep. I remember him. We got Gene Upshaw.
I saw that.
Yeah. We got Joe Andruzzi, another former Patriot offensive lineman. And then we have Willie Lanner or something like that. He was a former, a Hall of Famer himself, and in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I believe he was an offensive lineman for.
That's 55.
No, McGinnis, 55.
Yeah, 55.
I'm not great with numbers, man, but certain numbers stick to you, man. That one
for
does,
sure.
Absolutely. So, he played for the Chiefs and was, all pro, offensive lineman. That's definitely a good number. 63. We got some Hall of Famers and some great players to wear that number, particularly in Boston.
For sure, man. If you're watching, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. That's how you support us. And make sure you're following on social media, ProFans_sports on Instagram. We're at ProFanSports on Twitter, Facebook.com/ProFanSports, and of course YouTube /ProFanSports. We drop every Tuesday. Make sure you're watching for the podcast on any podcast platform. Just write our names in. We'll be right there. And the videos drop on Wednesday, so be on the lookout for us and our guest, Josue Pavón, man. So we're going to get into the NBA, of course, Celtics specifically. Game 4 last night? We saw, the big three of the Nets score, I think, 81 points combined, or is that more? Was that more?
They had like 100 points. Over 100 points.
And 101 points. 101 points.
That was just Durant and Harden in game 3, man. It was 82.
39 and 41.
Crazy, man. Wow.
That's what I was thinking about. Game 3.
Yeah.
Game 4 was a lot worse.
That's what you're thinking about,
Because the big 3, man, came out and did their thing.
Exploded.
They went crazy, man. Josue, were you at the game?
I was, man. I was. It was a crazy atmosphere, as you can imagine. What happened before, what happened right after. Man, it was wild. It was the first time to take in some playoff basketball at TD Garden in quite some time, and the fans showed out. Of course they did. Sunday, it was. I was staying on the post-game show after the game, man. I was like, the crowd is sauced up when they're singing the national anthem verbatim, man. I was like, oh man,
hey, that's
people
crazy.
Were excited, man.
Yeah,
man.
The crowd was that lit. Word.
Tell us about. It's unfortunate they didn't get a really close game, but we talked about it right before you guys hit record. These guys fought, man. They showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of effort. When the Nets are tacking on over 70 points at the half, I'm looking to myself. I'm looking at my notes and everything. Like, where the Celtics going to come up with these points? Like, how do you counter this? Without Jalen, without Kemba, But these guys showed out. I mean, they tacked on 120, over 120.
126.
Some people say 126. Yeah, right. That's almost 130. Some people will say that's a testament to Brooklyn's defense, and they need to clean that up before they go to the next round. But I look at it as a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of that, but also Brad Stevens just getting the most he could, most offense, most point production he could out of his guys. Guys off the bench, and it's just tough to see that because all season long that effort wasn't always there, or at least towards the end of the season, right? I mean, you look at that last week or two of the regular season, and you see the level of effort that these guys put forth, and you're like, man, if they put together the kind of game that we saw against Brooklyn in Game 3, or even the effort that we saw in Game 4, I don't think we see the Celtics play the Nets in the first round. I don't think they even participate in the play-in tournament. They should have avoided that. Like, that was the colossal. I mean, it's easy to say that now because you look at what's going on with Kemba right now, what's going on with Robert Williams. Let's say hypothetically, even if they did get out the first round, what happens after that, right? It's tough, but I can't help but wonder what's going to happen next year because, Brad Stevens, the coaching staff, the direction of this team, what happened? Like, why did they? Was it just COVID, or was it just injuries? Was it all that? Because I do think that's a huge part of what happened this season. But I also think that sometimes, when the team just decides not to listen to their coach, or when they're zeroing out their coach, they're not all in on their coach. That effort is the biggest sign of that. And I think that there was when it mattered most in those late regular season games, they didn't have that. They didn't have that heart, So I wonder what's going to happen next year. And of course, the makeup of this roster. There's a lot of questions, but for the most part, I do think that this team, when you look at their core, they're still talented enough to compete in the Eastern Conference. But the other pieces, it's going to be interesting to see, how they move forward. But yeah, man, it was a heck of a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like just to be in the Garden with the Garden at full capacity compared to what it has been for the last year and a half? You know what I mean? When it was empty and there was no fans just pushing the players and giving them that energy. And what kind of energy was in the building last night?
Oh man, it was like every play matters, and the crowd. I think that was a significant advantage for the Celtics. Even Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Game 3 wasn't near full capacity, but it's almost beneficial in a way, because if you really want to get something out, if you're in the Loge and you wait for that right time, they're gonna hear you. Like it was just enough. The free throw line, the guy takes a couple of dribbles and stops. Whatever you're saying, if you scream it loud enough, they're gonna hear you. When I did my post-game show one time, and I was getting really into it, and I got my headphones on, and I got an email from Celtics PR being like, "Hey man, it's no big deal. It's actually kind of funny, but your voice echoes in here pretty, it resonates, and we can hear you, man." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm trashing this team right now. I'm mad at them right now. Like, don't say that." He's like, "No, it's all good, but FYI, we can hear you." So like, when there's not a lot of people there, your voice can truly resonate. So I also think that played a part with Kyrie. I also don't think that Kyrie was just upset because of the crowd. It wasn't just that. I think he was doing his best to keep the focus on the game and keep his teammates, focused on and just get out the outside noise. So I think that in doing that, because obviously every time he touched the ball, everyone would boo. He tried to, not keep the ball too much in his hands, but then when he did try to, do his thing, he couldn't find his offensive rhythm, and I think the crowd had a lot to do with that. So, it was definitely a big difference compared to the regular season games. I think that they did get under the guys like Kyrie's skin a little bit, and that's just sort of what playoff basketball is about.
But how was it when the crowd was chanting "Fuck you, Kyrie"? Like, how crazy was that?
It was crazy. You could just hear it vividly. I mean, you could see it vividly. Everyone's saying it, and what cracked me up even more was before the game when Kevin Durant was shooting around, and the place wasn't even packed, and there was still enough people in there to boo him throughout his routine.
That's
every
crazy.
Shot he missed, they clapped. F-U-K-D. F-U-K-D. Like, there's no way you could even try to focus through that. It was so funny, man. But he made them pay, and that's what superstars do, But
absolutely.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, those guys came out. Kyrie scored 39, Harden scored 23, and KD got 42 in there. We saw, a little chippy play with Marcus Smart there at the end. And then, the situation that happened, after the Nets exiting with the fan throwing the bottle and stuff like that. So now, we got that narrative right now, that our fans are belligerent or racist or whatever. When you heard that comment from Kyrie, I know that's been, talked about over the days, on the media and stuff like that. But what is your sense of the Celtics fans and, the kind of stigma that it got right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line between, the passionate fan base and, guys that go out there and think that just because they bought a ticket that they can say whatever they want for the players. And that's obviously not the case. I from covering the Celtics the last few years, I from personal experience, never heard or experienced anything like that, even as a spectator being in the crowd. But, it doesn't shock me when I hear stories like this, unfortunately. These kind of things happen, in other cities as well. But I think just because of Boston's history, obviously people are gonna, that stigma's gonna stick with the city, and this doesn't help. You know, this one kid who, and we don't know if this was race related. We don't know if it was, you know, what he said.
It's 21.
Right. But the thing is that you drinking, you getting too excited, or you too in your feelings, and you do something like that, and it ruins it for everybody. Now the narrative isn't about, you know, Kyrie Irving stepping on the logo, on the face of the logo on his way out. You know, no one's gonna ask him that question because that's a stupid question to ask at that moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like, who cares now?
Right. Because if I'm Kyrie, I'm like, really? That's what you're asking me? You're going to ask me that right now after I just got something chucked at me? Did I deserve that?
Right, it's not relevant.
His career's over. Like, that's career suicide, right? For asking that crazy question. But, again, if that kid doesn't throw it, that's more than that's a great question to ask. It changes the narrative. And Kyrie Irving, he did what most superstars in this league do, who have a lot of experience in the playoffs, right? He played a card, or not a card, I should say. He played a move to get into people's head, and it sort of worked, right? You know, the disruption and everyone talking about it. I mean, in Game 3 for him, it didn't work. Obviously, he was ice cold, but I think for the most part, it made people think, and it opened up a conversation, opened up a narrative, and I think that's what Kyrie really wanted at the end of the day. And he, you know, at the end of the day, in Game 4, he also wanted the last laugh, and I think he got that too.
You think Kyrie is now probably the most hated ex-Celtic ever?
I think so. I think so. He's like, he surpassed LeBron by a mile, I think, you know, and it has nothing to do with him beating the Celtics, right? This would be the first time, I guess, right? Minus LeBron, without LeBron, I should say, you know. I don't know, man. Like, Celtics fans, I don't think they were crying last night. I don't think they were like so upset that he did that, but it was just like, I just think it was unnecessary. I don't know if it's, I don't know if disrespect or I'm not quite sure what it is, but I just don't think it was necessary. And I think, you know, you got to respect the organization in a way, right? I mean, these guys, you were part of them, you know, and if not, if you don't respect them, if you get something, then speak up. Then speak on that. You know what I mean? Like, look, I didn't like my 2 years here, or I didn't like how this happened. I didn't like that. Speak on it, because clearly you have something against this organization.
Right.
This isn't about you speaking up about what's more important, what's more important than basketball. What you said now more than ever, I think what he said about racist fans in Boston had more to do about him just trying to have an advantage, or just a low blow towards Celtics fans than the organization, man. He's got something against the organization. You don't go out and do that, and nor do I think it was a coincidence. Like, no, man, he knew what he was doing. And
of course.
You have something against this organization. If you're gonna stomp on that face, the same face that Paul Pierce kissed, what was it, like 6 years ago in his very last game?
Wasn't that long ago, man.
Come on, man. That means something to these guys. That means something to former players. And I can't wait to see which ones, you know, if they choose to speak out on it. I can't wait to see what they have to say about that.
Right. I think what Jaylen Brown said, you know, in his post-game interview, you know, as a black man, you know, I grew up here. I'm a diehard Celtics fan myself, and I support the Celtics. And, you know, I also grew up here, so to hear, you know, the narrative about, you know, Boston being so racist, it's like, I grew up here, and it's like, it's really not like that. So, and I know, you know, we're not the only state or city that has a problem with, you know, racial situations happening, because this is America. Let's not kid yourself. But it was definitely a hard time to hear that stuff all the time in the media, especially on the ESPNs, you know, first takes. It's like big debate. So it's definitely not a fair thing that he did, in my opinion anyway. And to put attention to that right there was definitely, I think, you're right on that, Josue.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys, just because I think that I agree. I'm gonna agree with you guys and disagree with you guys at the same time. I do think Kyrie was trying to bring attention to the racism part, you know, at a time that it was a playoff game, and he probably was trying to create diversion to something else. But the racism issue still exists. You know, I've been called a nigger by a white kid at the Garden before.
He told that story.
You know what I mean?
What?
So yep, he told that story.
He said that on the podcast.
That was one of our first podcasts.
Yeah. So to me, So to me,
the guy a Celtics fan as well. Like,
he was a Celtics fan as well. He
was also a kid, right?
He was wearing a jersey. He was a kid.
He was a kid.
Yeah, he went by.
Yeah,
he went by me and he said, "Excuse me, nigga," something like that. I don't remember.
Wow.
He just kept running. And so I know it exists, and I know other players have complained about it. So I know it definitely exists. I don't know if Kyrie was. I'm sure Kyrie. That's not Kyrie's problem, you know. I mean, I'm sure like he was pushing it because he wanted to make noise. But to say that it doesn't exist, I know it exists for sure. But
I don't think anybody says it doesn't exist. You know,
yeah.
I just think like the focus is crazy.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was like, listen, I'd never personally, seen or heard it, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
of course.
We've all been out at the bars, right? Shit pops off, right?
Plenty of times.
Of course, absolutely. And me personally,
the vibe isn't that far off, right? So that's why it wouldn't shock me, but I haven't seen it personally.
No, me either. And I'm, someone that before, the, pandemic and stuff, I used to go to a lot of sporting events. Like before my days of working security at the Garden, I would, go to a lot of Celtics games, Red Sox games, Bruins games, Patriot games. And, I never really heard any fan say that to, to an opposing player or to, Boston player either. So, I'm definitely was kind of, surprised. Well, wasn't kind of surprised that he brought it up, Kyrie, but just in that like manner. But I feel like he, brought that up to put, down the city of, of Boston, which is, unfortunate that, he said it, in that regard, because I think that, it's misleading that, that Boston is a racist city and that, other players think that and have that perception, like, you hear KD in the, background right beside him when he was doing that press conference that, like the whole world knows that it's true. So what, what's up, Black? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's for us to say. I mean, just because we live here and we go to the stadium or to the Garden with our friends and we sit in by our friends and the people that we know already and we don't hear it. Just that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, because we've heard it from many players.
I'm not trying to say that doesn't happen. Of course not.
We've heard it from many players that are coming through that are saying that, and it's a reputation that Boston needs to change, and last night didn't help. Throwing that bottle last night didn't help that situation. You know what I'm trying to say?
It definitely
so it's like, so I'm not saying that everybody in Boston is racist, but I'm just saying like we're not helping ourselves. We're not the ones to say that. Like the people that are causing this trouble need to change, or they need to be arrested, or like not come to the Garden anymore, just like they did last night. But throwing the bottle last night wasn't like, that's not gonna help the situation. But
listen,
of course, that's unacceptable.
Also, what we got like 30. What do we got, like 30, 40 games at the Garden every year? We got 70, like 30, 40
41
games
in a regular scheduled season, like 41 games.
We've had over 17,000 fans in the fans. You think one person will have some messed up views every now and then? Like that's single city, bro. Like, do you think not one person at at another arena feels like this and they don't say anything? I think it's just like the whole picture. You know what I'm saying? The narrative is just crazy to me. I think it's
yeah, no, I'm not. I agree with you guys. I'm sure there are other stadiums where that happens and people just don't mention it. But if we have that label, we need to change that. But I wanted to ask Josue about Kyrie stepping on the logo. Like, how do you feel about that and trying to get the conversation away from the bottle? But like, what's up with that?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you, man.
And also, not to cut you off, but he also last year he staged the whole
arena.
The arena before a game.
That was this year.
That was right. In the preseason this year, right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I would love to find out exactly what motivated that, and unfortunately, we may not know. I just think Kyrie is so, he likes to
Polarizing.
Polarizing. He'll make you think, but then he's not gonna give you the whole scoop, you know. And I want the whole scoop. Like, what is it? Is it this the stigma that the city has? Is it this me versus you, and you're taking on the villain role? We've seen that so many times before, right? LeBron James going to Miami and Kevin Durant going to Golden State. Is this your turn? You want to be the villain? Okay, I get that, but like, why go out and do something like that? And if you're not going to back it up, you know, I mean, I guess no one asked him about it, so technically doesn't have to. But I just think there's something more there. I don't know if it's those 2 years or is it the backlash in itself. You know, which one is it? Because something has him. There's some angst against the organization. You know, there has to be. I don't think you go out and do something like that if there isn't. And again, I don't know if it has to do with the 2 years he was here or you know, everything that went with that, the criticism, which for the most part didn't really come from the fans. I mean, maybe the media more than anything he was against. I feel like while he was here, I mean, the fans didn't turn on him until he turned on the fans. When he said what he said, and then he, you know, went to New Jersey or went to Brooklyn and you know, went home. That's why I think New Jersey. He went home. I'm like, the commercial and everything.
Right,
like, man, what about the other commercial? What about
I thought
you
he was home.
Number 11. Yeah, exactly. I thought
With
this was
your
home.
dad.
I thought you and your coffee pick up in the garden, and you wanted number 11 to be in the rafters. It's not gonna go up there now. You know?
Never.
Yeah, exactly.
They already gave it to somebody else.
Enes Cantor wore it already.
Yeah.
What it is?
it's
Pritchard
done.
now?
It's done. Yo,
Pritchard wears it now.
Evan
Right.
Turner. Evan Turner put more work in that number. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
Facts, man. Facts.
What happened between that commercial and between you deciding to go to the Nets? Was it just, you know, a conversation between you and Durant deciding that you're gonna do it at the same time? I mean, there's just a lot to go through. I don't know if we'll ever find out. I don't know if that'll be one of those things that we, you know, once he's done or once he's towards the tail end of his career. But there's something there, man. I don't. For people out there who say that, oh, it's just the fans that hate him and Kyrie doesn't hate the organization, I don't know. I don't believe that anymore. It'll
be in the documentary. It'll be in the documentary.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
man. Like a Netflix special, 2025 or something. I don't know. Maybe a few years to find out.
He did say he was going to retire young, right?
If he stays
That's
in,
true.
that's what I was going to say. How long is he going to be in Brooklyn? I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if either he retires or he decides to do something else. It really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, man. So we saw Jason Tatum scored 40 last night, and you know, in our lone win, he had to score 50. Fournier had 16, Smart had 16, and I think Langford had 9. You know, we're going to Game 4 in Brooklyn. What can we do, if anything, you know, to get another win, or you know, to even make it more competitive?
You know, with the offense, man, I just think the Celtics have to find a way to keep scoring, to keep up with the Nets. You know, defensively, they've impressed me. Believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but Game 4 a little different. Second half was tough, but you know, KD came out in the third quarter. He had double figures alone. You know, and then Kyrie, I just think when these guys are in transition, it's just tough for them to keep up. But again, they're gonna have to find points somewhere. You know, what was it, 90 points in 2 games from Tatum? You know, he's doing everything he can. And the second leading scorer for the Celtics was Marcus with 16. Fournier was 16. You know, that's just not going to cut it. I look at someone like Fournier, and I'm like, man, you can get 20. You know, 22. I thought he would be averaging that in this series.
Is Kemba back next game?
No word yet, man. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're just going to shut him down. I mean, if this was a Game 7,
really?
If this is a Game 7, I would say give it a go. But I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me, man. It really was. I hope that's not the case, because before the series started, I told everyone, like, there's gonna be a Kemba game in this one. It has to be a Kemba game. What I mean by that is, you know, 22, 23. I'm not saying he has an in him against this team to drop 40, but you know, those 20 points, 22 points can go a long way, especially if you side it with 8 assists. And, you know, that momentum to carry the offense when they need it most in the second half, you know, that could be enough to bring the series back to Boston. You know, hopefully Kemba's out there, but without him, man, I don't know, man. It's just tough to figure out where the offense is going to come from.
Yeah, and I have an issue with Kemba not playing. And my problem with that, guys, is that they've load managed this guy all season long, not played him on back-to-backs, and kept him out, a good amount of the games this year, so that at the end of the season, when we're in the home stretch, and particularly in playoff time, like we are right now at this point in time, he'd be, rested and healthy and ready to play, these important games. And it's like now that we're, here we are in the playoffs, and game 4 last night, biggest game of the season, and and the guy can't play. It's extremely frustrating and and discouraging to see that, as a fan, that the team tried to do their best to manage this guy's knee problems that he was having, and to make sure that he was going to be in the best shape and in the best health to be able to play his best basketball in the playoffs. And we've yet to see that at this point, and now it's at the point where he's missing games. I think it's a major concern for this team, not only the rest of the series as far as how long it goes, but moving forward. And I think that's something they're gonna have to do to and they have to address after this season, because it's not getting any better, and we're in we've gone through this for 2 years. So it's a major concern that the team has to figure out what exactly they're going to do with Kemba, because this can't continue to happen moving forward, and the team's not going to grow and get better. It's not fair to Jason Tatum and to Jaylen Brown when he's healthy, that they don't have him out there, and they need him out there. Like you just said, they need his scoring and his shooting, and his playmaking. They need that to have any sort of chance of being competitive in this series, and it's unfortunate that we haven't seen that to this point.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, the Celtics do have 3 starters out. So Jaylen Brown's out, Robert Williams is out, and now Kemba. Do we have any news on Robert Williams? Like, do we think he comes back in this series at all?
He could. I mean, Brad Stevens is saying the same thing about both of them, him and Kemba. But the thing about Kemba is that this is a bone bruise, he's saying, and he believes that it's a little bit of that and the same knee injury that's nagged him all season long. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the year, believe it or not, I thought that was one of the few silver linings for this team. That what they did with Kemba, the program they had him on, I thought it was beneficial, because you had those 2 weeks where he was averaging 30 points. He was back to old Kemba. That was the most impressive stretch of basketball we've seen from Kemba in the last couple of years. Like, that was not just his time in Boston, but that was one of the best stretches of games we've seen from Kemba since he was playing in Charlotte, that last year where he was trying to earn that contract year where he put together a hell of a season. So, I give the Celtics a lot of credit for that, but it's almost like the aim was just off, right? Like, if you got that stretch of Kemba, and right for the play-in and going into the playoffs, maybe this series is tied up, but it's just tough. It's just all these injuries are just stacking up for the Celtics team. And, Barry, you bring up a good point. Moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see what Danny does. You still have a little bit of that TPE left. Do you go out and sign Fournier? I would say that's probably on the top of my list, but some people aren't crazy about seeing them, pay 20 or a little over 20 mil for someone like Fournier, which is probably going to cost them that, So what does that mean for Kemba? Not Kemba, excuse me. What does that mean for the salary cap? Guys like Kemba, Tatum, Brown, still all making max money. Kemba still got 2 years left on that deal. If it was 1 year, I would say, okay, you could try to ride it out and see but you got 2 years left on that, So it's going to be tough. And this knee injury, I can't help but wonder if, I hate to say the word, everyone hates to hear the word, but surgery. Is he going to need surgery? Like, if that's the case, then, man, we're talking about potentially an entire season, or we're talking about the beginning of the end, Or might be the case for Kemba.
Or should he have gotten surgery once he first found out about it?
That's another thing too. That crossed my mind right after the bubble when all this stuff was going on, but because of the quick turnover, there was no way in hell he'd be healthy enough to play at all this year. So I saw Danny saying absolutely 100% no. We can get that shot in his knee and let's see what happens.
That shot is not working though.
Exactly. It's not. It hasn't been working.
It's a temporary fix. It's not supposed to what do you call it? It's not supposed to heal the knee. It just makes you deal with the pain better. He did the best he could, and I give all the credit in the world to Kemba because he showed out. You know, he had that stretch of basketball really pushed a lot of hope into this team and gave them a handful of wins that they really needed. But those games that they lost, that forced them to enter the play-in tournament, man, I just think that put them into a bad spot going into the playoffs.
Right, and they had some brutal losses this year.
Oh man,
then brutal, awful.
Who you telling? Man, OKC.
Yeah,
was it,
that's the worst.
Yeah, that was the worst.
Inexcusable.
Those guys a win? Oh,
right, and they hadn't won in a month. 14 straight losses, hadn't won in over a month.
That team.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a G League team, right there. Not even NBA,
definitely
a G League team.
It was definitely a disappointing season. Josue, do you think the Garden sees another game this year? Basketball game.
Nah, man. I'm gonna start making plans. Check out my itinerary. You know, vacation's coming.
I think all the guys are doing that right now.
This is it.
Book that vacation.
I think those guys, when they come back, they're gonna clear out their locker. You know, that's gonna be, you know, season. What is it? What do they call it? End of the season
season exit.
Yeah,
right. Exit interviews.
Big exit interview energy coming. So it's just tough, man. This team is just, again, that offense, that firepower. You almost just have to hope that they're gonna go. One of them gonna go ice cold. But when you got one guy in Kevin Durant, who I swear he chills for 2 quarters and then goes off in the second half, it's like he's got that support, you know.
Yeah, he can flip that switch. Absolutely,
he doesn't have to do much.
Exactly, and that's he's conditioned himself in that way from his days from playing with Golden State, but this one's different, right? I mean, Harden dished out 18 assists. Like, no one's even talking about that. Like, this dude,
right.
Dude.
I seen that on the box score, and I was like, "What? James Harden had 18 assists?
23 and 18, man.
Right. Like, he was dishing dimes like that, right?
It's crazy, man.
For real. I was surprised
what we're
when
watching
I saw
right
that
now
on the box score.
It's historic what these three are doing right now. And, you know, it's going to be interesting because I guess the Celtics, I know from a national standpoint, they're like, oh, well, man, they should have swept that team. I don't know if they're ready for Milwaukee. That's going to be a really good series. And, you know, I didn't give Milwaukee maybe I didn't give them enough credit heading into the postseason, but they're balling, man. I didn't expect them to take
they were playing very well. I did see that series.
Man, that sweep and the way they did it.
Oh, yeah.
Giannis
dominating.
Read the newspaper. Okay, Giannis, talk your shit.
He said, "Don't play with your food, man."
Right, exactly.
But
I like where his head is at.
I can't.
What did he say before the season started? Some people, you know, they see a wall and they want to go and try to find an easier way to go through. I go right through the wall. You know, I'm not going to jump squads and try to join a super team. No, I'm gonna do it here. So
that's right.
Kind of.
I respect that. I respect when you said that.
Exactly. I love that narrative, and especially going into a series where you're playing the newest, hottest super team in the NBA that's thirsting for a title, man. Can Giannis stop these guys? You know, that's going to be great to see. Must-see TV.
That's going to be a hell of a series. I can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be exciting and fun to watch.
I'll stay for that series, and then I'll book my vacation after that. We'll cover that series.
I had a question. Did you want to ask a question? Because I did have a question that I wanted to ask.
Go ahead, Barry.
What's up, Barry?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the moves that you think, you know, the Celtics need to make to, you know, make the team better for next year and to bring that third, you know, guy, you know, alongside with Tatum and Brown that, you know, can be more consistent and more, you know, reliable, and that, you know, the team can, you know, trust to, you know, to play well consistently and be on the court. So what are you thinking, you know, some moves that, you know, the team could make to, you know, be able to compete and contend, you know, with, you know, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks, you know, for next year?
We got to watch out for Atlanta too now.
Yeah, too, right. Can't sleep on Atlanta. Trey Young's been killing it. Ice Trey, it's been balling out.
Tough question, Barry. It's a tough question, man.
I don't put you on the spot.
Put your GM hat on.
There's so many different ways that the team can go, in the direction. But honestly, man, people are not want to hear this, but I think the team runs it back, man. I just think the way they.
Well, don't tell me that, man. I definitely don't want to hear that.
Yeah, man. The way the tap is, they're tied up with the cap and everything. Because look, if you're gonna go out and make a big splash, you're gonna have to trade or package some of these guys together. Whether we're talking Robert Williams and look, just to bring in someone that is a max guy and could be a solidified third option. You're going to have to ask them to take on that Kemba contract, and nobody wants to do that. Again, this would be way easier for Danny if it was 1 year left. Look, take this expiring deal.
Yes, definitely.
You don't want that star, or you can't pay for him anymore, we'll take him off your hand. He's done that so many times. He did it with Kemba, or we've seen other teams in the NBA do that before. And, selling off Kemba, it's tough because of that extra year. You do have Marcus Smart, who his deal does make things easier trade-wise, especially if you're not quite sure if you're going to, what are you going to do with him because he's got a year left, You got to think about that. Do you want to keep him around? And if so, you're going to have to pay him. So it's just a really tough spot to be in. But, for the Celtics, I think they're looking at this season. They're looking at all the injuries. They're looking at COVID. And I think they truly believe that the talent, the end of the bench talent, that's something that they can adjust. I just think if they make a big splash, or the biggest trades they make are going to be like pieces to really help boost that bench. I truly believe that they think that a healthy Robert Williams, and if they're able to give this a go one more time, that they can try to sort of just improve on what they have. But when you're talking about making a big splash, man, I mean, the only thing I can really think of, the only one player that comes to mind, a couple of players that come to mind, but it's just gonna be it'll be cap gymnastics, for Danny to fucking try to flex this one, man.
Yeah,
for real.
Kyle Lowry.
It's an interesting option. Kyle Lowry.
I don't think he was right. You remember the trade deadline? It was almost set in stone. He had conversation. He had Drake. It was like a goodbye from Drake during his post game conference, and then he wasn't traded.
Oh yeah.
And then it was like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
I thought we had an agreement here, fellas, but Toronto was like, look, maybe we can get something better in the offseason, so they held out. Maybe Boston is that someone that can go in there and help. Whether again, it's gonna take some pieces here, because if you're gonna shut off Kemba, you're gonna have to give them something else. Whether it's a young piece like Robert Williams, whether you're selling off Marcus Smart, like think about your best pieces that the Celtics have, and obviously not including Jalen and Tatum, because I truly believe they're not gonna break those guys up yet. At least not yet.
No, definitely not.
For people who think that's a possibility, that's not happening.
Yeah, hell no.
Danny's waited a long ass time to have these two guys mesh the way they are or perform at the level that they are. He's not trading off these two all-stars like that. Before their prime, get out of here.
Yeah, hell no. That's a no-no.
These two aren't even in their prime yet, so that's not happening. But yeah, that's an option. That's an interesting piece. Again, I have to go through the logistics of it, but just off the top of my head, that's a guy I think that Danny's gonna think about. About guys who can make an immediate impact and who aren't exactly thrilled about where they are right now. Another interesting piece is, the only reason I say this is because I don't know if these guys can pay him, and his name has been mentioned in a lot of trade talks before the deadline, but I just don't know how they would be able to do it. And that's Lonzo Ball. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Lonzo Ball is on the move because of.
I believe he's a free agent this season. I think his contract's up, and he'll be a free agent, this summer. So they may not have to even give up anything to get him, to pick him up.
So if that's an option, the hell with that whole Fournier thing I said. See you later, Fournier. Like something said, they'll figure it out. They'll figure out that role, because if you bring in someone like Lonzo Ball to help these guys, Jalen, Tatum, oh man, like that would be beautiful.
Yes, now we got something cooking.
Someone whose scoring is the last thing on his mind. He's trying to set up everybody, and especially his two all-stars. I think that could solidify a strong big three for the future, man. Those three, you know. But again, it's gonna take a lot, and unfortunately, these somewhat broken pieces in Robert and Kemba, you know, just don't help. But for the Celtics, when you're trying to put together a package, a deal together, you know, the future first round picks and all that, yeah, that sounds great, but they need something that they can really rely on, a solid piece, young piece, and you know, we'll see what they can do. But yeah, those are two guys I would love to see in a Celtics uniform that I think will make an immediate impact and be that third, you know, the third piece of the big three for this team to compete with a team like the Brooklyn Nets. Lonzo Ball, I think that's enough. Honestly, I do. I think you put him with these two, you got something there. And the other pieces you put together, you could come back and really give the Brooklyn Nets a fight.
I love the Lonzo Ball pickup.
Me
think,
too. I like that idea.
I like the way you put it. Somebody that's not even scoring, is not on their mind. They're just here to facilitate the offense and get those guys.
Facilitator, that's the word.
Get those guys
Lowry's
open.
a lot more. He's more inexpensive, you know. So I think that's the big reason too, as well. That, and I just think he's just a fighter, man. He's got a lot of heart, and you know,
he'll take those charges.
Oh man, like this fan base, everyone would just love him, and he's hungry. He wants another title. He wants to compete. You know, he sees.
He's also getting up there in age.
Right, 35.
Exactly. Getting younger, man. Like I don't think at the trade deadline he was like, oh man, you know, I don't agree with anything going on in here. No, he's looking at it as like, yo, clock is ticking. I want to get back to the mountaintop. I don't know if this is it now. You know, Brooklyn changed the game. Brooklyn flipped the script, and Philly's Philly. You know, and Boston, they're in the mix. I don't put them on top of those guys. Milwaukee also in the mix. I still put Miami in the mix. If you're Kyle, you're like, what the hell's Toronto? We're not in the mix anymore. What happened? You know, I don't know, man.
That's how I feel about Boston right now.
We're definitely not in the mix, man.
I think he's staying east.
We're not there as of right now.
I think Danny's gonna try to do. I think he's gonna try to do his thing, man. I think that's an option for sure.
I have two questions for you. One is a follow up to this conversation. I like the Lonzo pickup, but I know this sounds crazy, but what about having somebody like Rondo on the bench?
Oh, I would have loved that for this year, for this team.
I would have loved that as well.
Yeah, the only thing is that I just feel like the way that locker room is with Brad, and again, I just
I hate that excuse already.
People can say what they want about Brad, but man, this team just wasn't listening to him. Like it was a point in the season where they just like no, we checked out.
Exactly.
I think Rondo would have helped that, but at the same time, I think Rondo could have sparked a mutiny almost. You know, like he could have been like all right, put it this way. Rondo comes in, right, hypothetically this year, right? And he's telling, you know, he's telling them what it is, and he's getting in guys' ears, and he's helping, right? What's gonna happen when, you know, you go into the locker room and Brad starts getting in your ear? You're gonna be like, man, I don't want to listen to this dude right now. I like what Rondo had to say. I don't know. I just think Danny looked at it as like, if he does bring him in, he could almost like, I don't want to say expose Brad, but almost shift people to really not listening to Brad. And, you know, maybe that's a good thing, but maybe it's a bad thing in a way.
Yeah.
I just think it was delicate, and obviously, you know, Rondo and Brad, it was brief. You know, they had their little year together or whatever, you know, during the rebuild, and I just think they're just two very different styles, man. I mean,
yeah, they don't mesh.
Yeah, I think Danny was thinking about that as well. But again, if this team was closer to competing for a championship, you know, and they could have done something like that, I think Danny would have done it just to get a title. But I don't know if he saw it as he's going to push you over the top. So that's probably why he didn't do it. But I would have loved that for this team, for sure, for this year.
My second question is, who's more responsible for the collapse this season, Brad or Danny? And which one of them would you let go if you had to?
Oh, good question.
Ben's trying. Vlad's been trying to get rid of all those guys for
right. From out the gate, exactly. For a minute,
he's been trying to get rid of all of them.
Especially
right. He's trying to clean house, man. He wants a whole new, front office and coach on this team.
But I want to hear what you think, though.
Get them all out of here. No, man. I would say I'll put the season on Brad. More on Brad because I just think in the East, this is not a 500 team. There's no way it's a 500 team.
Yeah, it
It's
shouldn't
not.
be.
You can say what they want
Unacceptable.
about the offseason. You know, I would have loved to see Danny make that deal with Indiana, the whole thing that was on the table or reportedly on the table. You know, and people upset with him about that, but I don't know if at the end of the day, Gordon goes to Indiana. I think he gets that phone call from Michael Jordan no matter what, and he makes that decision no matter what. They threw him the bag. Like,
Well, really?
and without
Even
Gordon,
if for Miles Turner, you don't think they could have done that deal?
I don't think so because I don't know if
The
Gordon.
contract was crazy.
Yeah, well, the thing is that Gordon would have had to. He's the big piece in that, and I don't know at the end of the day if he was going to go there no matter what. So, you know, for people who are mad at Danny with that, I don't know if that's fair. And also, I'm not quite sure, you know, what was I going to say? At the trade deadline, I don't like that Fournier deal. That was the best he could do, you know. So I don't like out of the two. I'll put the season on Brad, and if one of them had to go, same thing, man. Brad, I just think it's the culture right now, you know. Yeah, we're seeing that fight now, and the whole new season can change things for sure. But there's not a doubt in my mind that throughout the season, man, this team stopped listening to him, and I think I don't know if that's his fault. You know, that just happens when you've been in a place for quite some time and it's been 7 years. Obviously, this hasn't been the same core, but he's had these guys for quite some time here. You know, Tatum and Brown, and you know, maybe
for 4 or 5 years, right.
Just a new voice could really help these guys, and I don't think the Celtics pull that trigger during the offseason, but if one of these guys say it's time to move on during the offseason, then they will move on during the offseason. So if that does happen, I think they had that conversation, whether it was Marcus or Jalen or Tatum or all three. You know, if that happens, it's because they spoke up and said, "Look, we need another voice in here, a new voice."
Right. Josue,
That's true. I think they. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I was actually going to say, I think I did Josue a disservice, you know, by not even telling our supporters, you know, where Josue, you know, is from, what he does. You know, is a heavy beat writer for the Celtics and the NBA. I believe he started out at WEI.com.
That's right. Yeah.
And right now, you know, you're working for the CLS Media and you're the co-host of the Cedric Maxwell podcast and Causeway Street podcast.
Yeah,
you know, if people want to follow, it's at Joe_Sway, right?
Yeah,
you know,
check out my video. I got the water bottle incident. I got y'all.
Yeah, man.
What got you that right on your Twitter, huh?
Yeah,
right.
Man, that was crazy.
Word.
I was recording Kyrie, you know, walking out, and I got everything. I got him doing the logo thing. I was like, did he just do it? Because you know when you're recording something, you're not really watching it.
Yeah.
It's like, right. Then you look at it again, you're like, what?
So you put that video out there?
Kept recording, and I saw that bottle flying. I was like, oh, man, that was definitely something that just got tossed to Kyrie.
So we got a legend in the house, right? You know, and you're doing all that stuff, and Vlad, Barry, and myself, you know, we got the Pro Fan Sports podcast, and our goal is definitely to make it, you know, somewhere where you're at. What is some advice you got for guys like us and, you know, doing the podcast and trying to break into that situation?
Oh, man, I appreciate the kind words, fellas. But honestly, I would just getting the reps in, man. The more comfortable you are in front of these cameras and the more conversational style you have is what makes it that much more entertaining, man. I always tell people when people tune into a podcast, they want to feel like they're just kicking it with you, you know? And I think that's what makes a great podcast, as opposed to, you know, the quote unquote newsy and, you know, I don't know. You guys know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like
the reporting.
Yeah, like
right,
the
exactly.
newsy and flooding people with a bunch of stats and everything and numbers and all that. It's like, man, I could read that. You know, I tune into a podcast because I want some entertainment. Obviously, you want to find out some information. Yeah, true. But you also want to hear unique perspectives, and I think that's what makes it. That's what makes a great podcast. So yeah, man, I always say just keep getting the reps in. Obviously, flood your mind with as much information as possible, and that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, always going through just box scores and all that stuff. You know, just try to, you know, just soak in as much as you can, whether it's you're watching different segments on YouTube, ESPN, or different other outlets, and see what people think, and then that's how you try to form your own opinion and just keep getting the reps in, I would say, man, for sure. But yeah, I see y'all, man. Y'all doing y'all thing. keeping it consistent every week. Man, some podcasts are doing it like a couple episodes a month. Like, nah, man, you got to do it week after week. That's how you get better. That's how you get your reps in. Yeah, man, but that's pretty much it. I would say that for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Josue.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
Thanks for the advice, man.
Before Josue gets going here, does anybody have a last question for him?
Nah, I'm all good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the information you shared with us.
Thanks, Vlad.
For sure.
Yeah, just one more question that came into mind real quick. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but just wanted to ask, kind of going back to the conversation that we had in about the racism in Boston, or the issues with fans and players that happened in Boston. Do you think that will have an effect on like free agents wanting to come here in the future and play for the Celtics?
Yeah, unfortunately, man, it's gonna be on people's mind. I mean, just when I felt like we were sort of getting away from that, because I think that guys like Al Horford, opened the door for that whole, remember that narrative like not too long ago? No one wants to go to Boston. Like, for them to do that was huge. Hayward was huge,
Right.
They're both gone now, fellas, and if I'm a
unfortunately,
I'm like, why did they leave? Why did they leave? They made deep playoff runs. They played well when they were healthy, especially, Hayward, and Horford. Horford
was an all-star, right?
We loved Horford, man.
So why did they leave, And I think some of that has to do with free agents. I mean, some of that has to do with, what was going on, whether it was chemistry-wise, or whether it was, for Horford, it was, Philly just trying to stand him defending so well, So it's a different reason for everyone, and we could go through it, but at the end of the day, I just think from the outside looking in, it doesn't look good, It's like, well, what's going on over there? Why is that the case? And another thing I talked about a lot throughout the season is the relationship between Tatum and Brown. I can't stress enough how important I think that is. If this team truly wants to be successful and be a championship team one day, they have to. Maybe they are doing it, but it just doesn't look like it. But they have to start really having. And I used to say it all year long. They have to have uncomfortable conversations. They have to discover what they can do to make their teammates better. They have to like almost form like a hey, something's bothering you, you let me know something, and vice versa. And if we have to get into people's faces or whatever, maybe not into their faces, but if we have to figure out what the problem is, then let's have it. Let's talk about it. I just think that that's what leadership is all about, especially for a team where your two leaders are not even 25 years old yet. So that's another thing too, man. These guys are maturing. They still have plenty of maturing to do. So yeah,
man. Again, Josue, thank you so much for coming through on the Pro Fan Sports Podcast. We appreciate you, man. And
you know what, man?
Keep doing your thing.
Those two the ones recruiting. They need to be recruited. Like that.
I was just gonna say that, and I've been hearing people say that too. I was just gonna mention that and bring that up. That those guys, I think that's what it's gonna take for the Celtics to get over a hump or get to the next level, is them recruiting and bringing that third guy and that third piece. On the team that's gonna help them make a championship caliber team. That's what it's gonna come down to.
When they went to All-Star Weekend, man, I was joking around on the show. I was like, man, if I was Durant or one of these like perennial All-Stars, I'd be like, it's the All-Star duo leading the 500 team. Look at these two. Look at these two. Like, I was clowning them, man. I was clowning them so hard.
Them like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, man, y'all haven't even figured out y'all team yet, man. It's two of y'all 500. Come on, man. Like, I would give them all kinds of shit. Like, I would talk my shit because from the outside, it's like, what's going on? Why are you guys 500?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, man. I think.
No, I feel you. It doesn't seem right at all that this team's 500 too. Great young superstars like JT.
I just hope that relationship forms, man, that bond, because if it doesn't, we've seen the story before in the NBA. One guy's going to say, I'm out of here, and all of a sudden Danny Ainge's gonna have a whole new list of problems, man.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Especially when you're not winning. When you're not winning, right?
Right. That's when the real feelings start to come out.
That's when Jalen will be like, oh, wait a minute. I don't need my own squad. I don't need this. You know what I mean?
Facts, right. Those thoughts start to pop in your head. Right.
Or he starts saying
they were this close to knocking off the Heat. And the very next year, Harden's like, yo, I don't need to come off this bench anymore. I'm out of here, yo. You know what I mean? Like, yo, those guys could have won a title together. Yeah. Harden, Durant, Ibaka, that squad was Westbrook.
Loaded.
Man, I know, loaded. Woo, stacked.
All three of those guys, the 3 All-Stars I mentioned, all MVPs. Crazy.
Yep. It is, absolutely.
I mean, those two have to figure it out, man. And again, I think that relationship is so important, man. And man, I want to see some. Can we get like a shout out at the end of the game? Like, yo, man, Jalen was doing his thing today. Yo, that's my guy. Like,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear one of them say,
sure.
yo, that's my guy. Like,
remember when Tatum scored 60? I was looking for Brown to be, the first person up in his face. I didn't see that much at all. So I definitely see that right there.
Yeah, he didn't show him as much love as I thought. He should have been the first one showing him love. Right.
Jalen was out for the year. What did Tatum say? Give me something, man. You like social media, Tatum. Don't act like you ain't one of those dudes. Hey, get well soon, Jalen. Yo, my guy.
Right.
I got you.
No appreciation post or anything. Like you see so much times on IG and on Twitter and stuff, those guys post, you know what I'm saying? Like make these big appreciation, posts about their teammate, particularly when they suffer a season-ending injury. And like from Tatum, we didn't see anything, right? That's definitely concerning and alarming.
One time I was writing an article, and I'm trying to find one pic of them just like embracing each other. I couldn't find one.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say? I couldn't find it. So what you're trying to say is those guys hate each other.
Right? They're not cool. They're not
no.
I don't think they hate each other though. I don't think they hate each other. I just think it's like they just.
They're still young. Yeah. They're still young.
And they're still young.
And
that's true.
They're still learning, and they don't have that Larry and DeRozan relationship. I mean,
exactly.
Not many teammates do. You know what I'm saying? But I think definitely when AD's out, LeBron's definitely out there saying, "Yo, when we get AD back, we should come back." You know what I mean? I definitely see what you're saying.
I'm not saying they had to. What do you think? Do you think Shaq and Kobe were best buds? We know that wasn't the case.
Hell no.
But they had to have chemistry on the floor. Right.
They had that goal.
Jordan and Pippen, you think they were chilling all the time? Hell no.
No, they weren't boys like that either. Nah.
But you got to have that continuity on the floor. I just don't think they had that.
Right.
I mean, they both perform at a high level, but they need to figure out what's going to make the entire team better, not what's going to keep them averaging, And their averages are damn near identical, man. It's just so funny to me. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
For real.
Right.
All right, I'll drop that for y'all, and then I'm out of here.
All right, cool, man.
All right, happy Memorial Day, man.
You too, guys.
About today,
holiday,
man.
Yes, enjoy your holiday. And a happy belated birthday, by the way. I just seen that you had a birthday that just passed this month. Yeah, my birthday was this month as well. So
definitely wanted last week.
Oh, word. That's what's up. Happy belated, my man. Hope you enjoyed it and had a good one.
Gemini season, look out.
I knew somebody was going to drop that. Like,
people hate Geminis, yo. They hate us.
Well, I don't know anything about it. I try to pay little attention, man.
That's funny. Yeah, man. The weekend was great, but I just want to say this though, real quick, guys. I don't know about y'all, but barbers, if you're gonna leave and go out of the country, man, you gotta let me know. All right.
Facts.
Luis went to the Dominican Republic and he extended his fucking trip, man. I'm out here, listen, Luis, I'm on every 7 to 10 days. I'm in the shop, man. Send a text, bro. Let somebody know.
Something.
Right, facts to give you a heads up. Right.
Yo.
No, I don't blame him though, because I love DR too. I'll extend my trip if I go to DR. Like that's a beautiful place. I definitely enjoy going over there whenever I get a chance. But you're right, like You gotta at least hit you up.
People who have a Dominican barber, you 100% feel me on this, yo. They just skate off the DR. You don't know when they're coming back, yo. They buy a one-way ticket, yo. It's crazy.
Facts. I know what you mean. I got Dominican barbers, so I know exactly what you mean. I can relate to that.
That's why I'm rocking this snapback right now.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
All right, fellas.
All right, man. Good seeing you.
Rest of your day, bro. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Take care, man. Have a good one.
Sounds good.
Again, we want to say thank you to Josue for coming by the pod. That was really cool for us to get to experience, talking to Josue. If you want to follow Josue, he is at Joe Joe_Sway SWAY. He's a good dude. He's on, CLNS Media. He's on YouTube pretty much on a daily basis. So check that guy out.